I love how I'm trying to have important conversation about the American work ethic, and what I get is people asking about Dungeons and Dragons. It's going to happen today. It's going to happen at the usual hour on Archcast. So yeah, we'll see you there. In the meantime, I want to talk about something that the communists like. I remember the Reddit. What was it called? The sub forum, yeah, the Reddit sub forum. Our work day, and it literally started with a person that had legitimate grievance and complaint towards their boss. Basically, the boss was an asshole. The guy was saying, "Hey, I can't come to work today. I think like he was sick or something." And the boss is like, "No, you're going to come because that's what I demand." And the guy said, "Well, then I quit. Fuck off." Oh, yeah, the boss wanted him to come on weekend. Yeah, I remember. So the boss demanded that he comes on weekend, and he's like, "No, I can't because it's weekend." And the boss is like, "Well, yeah, but like your replacement isn't able to come." So the guy goes like, "You know what? I quit." And it caused an entire subreddit. Like it caused many individuals to post their and to post their own experiences with their bosses and stuff. But eventually, it got co-opted by communists, and you actually had like people that generally didn't want to work. There was this guy went on Fox News, one of the Jannies, and this guy was like exactly what you'd expect from California. He was like part-time worker, walking people's dogs, and he was saying how hard this life is and how difficult it is to walk other people's dogs and shit. So everyone laughed at him, everyone mocked him, and that was the end of that sub forum. But now we have it in the news, right? So you have like these types of articles, and they're asking like, why are so many men in the United States stopped working? Now, when you look at the actual statistic, you notice that they do not count people that are self-employed, nor do they count people that are freelancing as working. And if that's the case, it's like, why isn't everyone freelancing? Because do you really want to go to a job and get lectured by the fat HR lady what a piece of shit you are for stuff that you didn't do? Do you want her to start reading Robin DiAngelo to you and explain to you about what white fragility is and how you're not actually oppressed by the bosses of the company? Like the company never does anything bad. It's your fellow worker that's the problem, and it's America that's systematic systems. You know, it's like, why would you want to subject yourself to that? And then there's also the cancer. Like, my fucking god, I looked at some companies and their advertisements on LinkedIn. They're treating their employees like children. Like unironically, the same colors you find in a kindergarten with chairs and shit is the same colors that you find at the workplace. The infantilization of the workplace is something that I wouldn't be able to put up with. It's like when they come on and they say, "Oh, we're part of the same corporate family." Like, fuck off. You're not mommy, you're not daddy. I have a wife at home. You know, I want to go to the workplace, not to get shot with Nerf guns over the open office from Bob, the other employee. No, I want to go to work, and I don't know, this may be astonishing. I want to work, okay? I want to work, and when I finish working, I want to go back home to my actual family. And this is like the other thing that they keep telling you at work. Oh no, you gotta be a team person, right? Like we work hard and we play hard, so you gotta be part of the team spirit. You gotta play. I don't want to fucking play. No, I want to go there. I want to work. I don't want to be friends with anyone. Like I don't have to be like you. Shouldn't force me to be friends with my coworkers. By the way, this is what made me look at Twitch with disgust in this day. There were a lot of Twitch content creators that were like, "Oh, the Twitch family, like we're part of the Twitch family." What the fuck are you on about? That is such a toxic behavior. It's like, okay, but I'm on YouTube, right? I don't consider Arch to be my family. I mean, I happen to be friends with him, and it's definitely not because we're both content creators, just because I like him as a human being. But like, think about Vosh, right? Like, would I want to be associated with Vosh? Or, I don't know, even a guy like Linus Tech Tips. Like, I don't, maybe he's a nice person, but I don't know him. I don't view him as a colleague. I don't view him as, and it's like this mentality, it's like, dude, what is wrong with you? Like, you go to work, you do your job, and you go home. But that's not the culture that America is trying to put. So it's no wonder that a lot of people are just fucking off. And then there's also the thing, it's like, oh, why are so many men in the US that stopped working? Well, I don't know, you got diversity initiatives, right? So now you have people that are really skilled, like for instance, James Damore over at Google. He's a great engineer, and because he disagreed with the company policy that was saying that women don't want to go in tech because men are misogynistic pigs and they make sexy jokes, and because of that, he's fired, right? So, well, I mean, he's now part of the unemployment. Is it because he's a bad engineer? No. Is it because he didn't do his job? No. Is it because he made a sexist joke on Twitter? No. It's because he disagreed, right? So you have companies that tell you, this is what we do, this is how we think. 9084 up your ass. And if you don't believe it, then you're going to get fired or laid off. It's like, well, that adds to the problem, right? And then it's also with the immigration, like do migrants get counted in the statistics, I wonder? Like if the government doesn't even know that you're there, like if you just went in and you're not part of any census, like you don't register or anything, sure, you may have a job, but like, how does the statistic account for that? So yeah, no, like honestly, it's surprising that you still have men that are part of this statistic. Again, simply because I don't understand why anyone wants to be employed. I genuinely don't get it. Like being a freelancer is the way to go. And there are freelancers on the internet taking the piss out of the HR lady. Like I saw a couple of them on Reddit. There was like this HR lady sending an email to the guy, and it's like, we had a meeting yesterday about belonging and inclusion, or like some cancerous shit like that, some Californian cancer. It's like, we got all of this important stuff that we wanted to talk to you about, and you weren't there. I hope you can make it tomorrow. And he's like, no, I'm not going to make it tomorrow. And she's like, well, you actually have to, because this is part of the corporate family. Like, you need to attend these meetings. And he's like, no, I'm a freelancer. Fuck off. And she's like, well, with this type of attitude, like, we're going to have to lay you off. But, like, she's got, like, this really condescending corporate speak. And he's like, I don't fucking care. Like, according to my contract, you're going to pay me no matter what. Like, if you want to lay me off, that's fine. But you're still going to pay me. Read the contract you signed with me. And she's like, oh, Bob, we need to talk about this. Like, we can't let this way. Like, you know, we need to see eye to eye. We need to reconsider. It's like, basically, she probably fired an employee that was contracted with a freelance gig, and they had to pay him no matter what. So basically, she said, legally speaking, yeah, you know, you just can stay home, and we're going to pay you anyway, because you didn't want to go to the diversity seminars. Hello, Renesis RX. Yeah, welcome to the show, and it is Kami Speak. But then, you know, like, you're also looking at what happens with your taxpayer money, right? So, like, you go there, you work hard, and Biden raises taxes. I saw some news articles, I don't know how true they are, but, like, apparently America is planning to raise taxes at a historical high. And where do your taxpayer money goes? Oh, gender studies in Afghanistan. Oh, I'm pretty sure, like, that is essential, right? Like, you're taking money away from me from feeding my kids so that Pakistan can benefit from gender studies. Like, that's amazing, right? And then you have, like, money going to foreign wars that you may or may disagree with. You have, like, and by the way, notice how America doesn't even discuss foreign wars in Congress anymore. Like, this is what, what's his name? Elon Musk, yeah. This is what Elon Musk actually talked about. Like, he was accused of being a traitor. I think it was something to do with the Russians. Oh yeah, they found, like, I think they found Starlink. Okay, I remember the thing. He didn't want to authorize Starlink for the use of a military attack on a Russian port. And he basically said that he views this as an escalation of the conflict. He views this as outside of the scope of the defensive war. And he's not comfortable with it, right? Now, again, you may agree or disagree with it, but, like, there were many Democrats that accused him of treason. And Elon Musk said, it's like, well, I don't remember when Congress declared war on Russia. Like, as an American citizen, you guys haven't actually debated this in the Senate. You didn't debate this in Congress. And reading the American Constitution and the legislation, it says that America, in order to formally view another nation as an aggression, you gotta have this in Congress and you gotta talk about it. But like they haven't done this since World War II, have they? Like if you're an American, you're just told on the news, oh yeah, by the way, we're at war with this nation now. Yeah, you need to support the war effort, more taxes. It's so interesting because if you look at World War II, the taxes that most American citizens had to pay were very small, very small. But they would ask people to purchase war bonds. So basically, if you wanted to support the war effort, you would do so willingly. Like you would actually purchase these war bonds, and people genuinely did, right? Like they didn't have to raise taxes. Like no, like people volunteered, people offered. People even volunteered for the draft. It was viewed as manly. It was viewed like defending your country. And people did so voluntarily back then. So like this idea that everything needs to be done with force and coercion is ridiculous. It's not that lazy people don't work. Again, when you look at the actual study, they do not take into account people that are freelancing or people that are self-employed. In fact, I even read the article, and many of them said, oh, well, most recessions are very hard on men because after the recession happens, people don't find jobs, but it's different with the pandemic. And I'm like, yeah, no fucking shit, because never in human history did the government tell people they're not allowed to work, right? So, like, the government genuinely created two classes of people, essentials and non-essentials. So if you are like a comedian working at MSLSD or CNN, oh, you are essential. Like, you could still have your job. You could still be a comedian, unmasked, go on television, still do your job. But if you happen to be like a restaurant owner, oh, you were shut down. And it led to this bizarre incident where the restaurant was shut down, and literally the restaurant across the street was open because they were filming a movie there. And no one was wearing masks, no one was doing any of the policies. But it was allowed because, well, they're part of Hollywood, so they're filming a movie. Meanwhile, the actual, low class, or well, actually middle class individual was told, no, you get to stay home and stay safe. Germans did the same thing. I don't know, like, actually, I haven't looked at the Nazi war effort in World War II. I assume that they drafted people. I don't think that they allow people to voluntarily go, and especially when they were losing the war, I think the compulsory thing was there. But, yeah. Since the pandemic, all the new jobs have gone to non-citizens, at least according to the official statistics. No, I think it's that since the BLM riots, most companies, they vowed to increase diversity. So you do notice like a huge number of minorities being hired, while the cisgender heteronormative white patriarchal man finds himself out of a job. Now I kind of understand why that is, by the way. Because there is some truth to this. Like, if you look at America, you will notice that historically, you guys have been nepotistic. And I don't mean this as bad as Eastern Europe. I don't mean as bad as Russia. But, like, when you looked at the positions of leadership and politics, it was very nepotistic. So, if you were, like, for instance, a Bush or a Clinton, every single door was open for you, right? Like, if you were part of the Rockefellers, if you were part of, like, the establishment, what do the left calls it? The frat boy club, right? Like the Skull and Bones type of, like all these cringe, all sorts of like university groups and clubs, right? If you were part of these gentlemen clubs, all the doors were open for you. And when you look at it from the outside, yeah, it does seem like those people are straight, cisgender, white, and male. Like, overwhelmingly, right? So now you have, like, the woke movement, and they're like, oh, well, there's white people everywhere, and we need more diversity. So what they do is they create the same shit. Like, instead of dismantling the nepotism, they just create their own nepotism, where now you have all of these HR ladies that went to college together, and they went to the same sororities, and they went to the same places, and they know each other, and they network with each other, and they sit on Twitter all day arguing about how evil men are. And they all have daddy issues. And now you have, like, those clique as well, right? So it's just like another clique of people. They haven't dismantled nepotism. But meanwhile, for the average guy that just wants to go to work an honest day, just wants an honest day living, and is just like working every single day, and he wants to bring food for his family, like he's not part of any nepotistic group, he's not part of any clique, but unfortunately the policies that are set by those above him influence him. So that's pretty much what's going on. Yeah, it's like an aristocracy, if you will, but it's not really. I mean, it's not. How should I say? It's not like, oh, you're born in this family, so you got the privilege. It's more like you went to the same university, right? Like you spun around the same circles. It is nepotism. Yeah, it's very similar to the Soviet Union. The thing is, like, the Soviet Union was pushing nepotism a lot more than the United States. It was more common and in many areas, while the one from the US was usually at the top. Like, you look at the politicians, you look at the mainstream media, the bankers, right? Like, that's where the nepotism was. But at least, like, down from middle management lower, there wasn't any nepotism. But now that you have, like, all the woke ideologues, all the HR ladies and shit, now middle management is nepotistic as well, right? So you have nepotism in the middle management, you got nepotism in between, and you got nepotism at the higher ups. And that's pretty much what you have. And it's not like they're just happy with getting a job and leeching money from the companies. No. They also want to push their ideology, they want to push their vision, they want you to say what they say, and it's very cancerous. So it's not surprising that a lot of people just can't handle the corporate environment and just want to fuck off. It's also the thing, like, if you look at the corporate culture, right? Like, this idea, we're all a family, we're all in this together, we're all a team. It's very feminine in nature. It's like how mom wanted me to play with the kids, right? Meanwhile, the masculine thing is like, no, we're competitive. Like, I want you to be better than the other guy. Like this is the whole idea of employee of the month award, right? It's like, no, you're not a family. This guy is the employee of the fucking month because you worked hard. You wanna be employee of the month and you want your picture on the wall? Well, next month you have the opportunity to work harder than that guy. Like, show me what you got. Show me the results. Show me the results or you get fired. That is a different type of corporate culture that used to exist. It was a lot more masculine and paternal. Now, it's up to you to decide which one you actually enjoy and which one do you think is more effective. I personally don't think it's like, oh, we're all part of the corporate family is effective, especially when they fire you and don't give a fuck. They never call. You know, your family never calls. After you got fired, after you get laid off because you've been at the company for a while and you were getting higher and higher wages, and now they were paying you a lot more than they could pay a new guy that just walked in, so they had to fire you. Yeah, they don't call, they don't ask how you're doing, they don't ask how you're feeling. All of a sudden, you're not part of the family anymore. Hello, Dragonclaw, welcome to the show. I'm so sick of this everyone wins mentality. My fucking god, I started doing bad chat, I started going on Reddit, and I'm reading shit. And there's this person that, was basically talking about how he's a psychologist and how he noticed that all of the psychology dedicated to curing depression is dedicated towards catering to women. And he said that in his experience, both men and women suffer from depression, but in order to reach a man, it's a lot different than how you can reach a woman, right? Of course, there's exceptions, but he was talking about in general terms. And he basically said, like, for example, and this really astonished me. Like, I was like, holy shit, it's actually correct. Like, a woman likes to be told that she is loved, right? Like, she wants her husband to go to her and say that, I love you. Like, it's very important for a woman to hear that, right? Constantly. Every week. At least once. It's paramount. It's pivotal. But as a husband, while it's nice to be told that you're loved, it's not the most important thing. But men, while they like being loved, it's not what defines them. What apparently defines a man is to be told that he is respected. Like, nothing makes a man feel great than having the wife come over and say, I respect you. I respect you for all you do. You know, like, that really makes a man light up. So, as you can see, like, different things, different needs. It's not that one is right and one is wrong. It's like one is more likely to work if you tell it to a woman, and one is more likely to work if you tell it to a man. but like they do not want to create like these two different, how should I say, methods of approaching the customer. They're using like the same thing that works on women, they use it on men, and it has mixed results. Like even the idea of catering to men, even the idea that men and women may be different psychologically, is something that's taboo and is not being promoted in the psychology industry in the United States right now. As the viral tweet goes, going to a psychologist is paying a lefty to give you 1 hour lecture sessions. This is literally why I suggest to people that you need to see a religious community member. Like, I don't care if it's an imam, if it's a rabbi, if it's a priest, like whatever. Like, those people have a historical track record at curing depression much better than modern psychologists do. Like, modern psychology comes from this absolute degenerate called Sigmund Freud and Jung. And when you look at what Sigmund Freud writes, if he was posting on Twitter today, he would get canceled. Like what type of imbecile writes that, men's goal in life is to assassinate the father so that they can sleep with the mother? And it's like, this is a psychologist, world-renowned, and that's like what he said. There's no scientific method behind this. There's no experiment to see if he is right or not. This is what he believed, and it's like, okay, but like, why should I listen to that absolute degenerate twat? And you can say, well, yeah, but like modern psychology isn't about Freud. Sure, but like it comes from there, doesn't it? The fucking roots of the tree are poisonous. Yeah, no, you would all get canceled. Like it's so, and that's just like the beginning. Like when you look at what else he wrote, it's like, holy fucking shit. Like, why is this guy considered a respectable person in their field? It's bizarre. Lazy one, hello V, hope you had a good day. D&D today? We should play D&D in half an hour. Oh yeah, everyone is telling me, oh, you don't understand Freud. Dude, what I understand if that is Freud was alive today and he would post on Twitter, he would get canceled. Unironically, like people, he would be Vosh. He would be treated like Vosh having his streaming malfunction. And we'd be like, whoopsie. That's what Freud would be viewed today. Don't give me this stuff like you don't understand. It's like, no, I understand it. I actually read Freud. Don't get me wrong. It's not that I disagree with what he has to say. I think he's mentally insane. Yes, I unironically believe that he should be locked up at the mental asylum if he was alive today. With mattresses on the wall so he can be a danger to himself or others. Goodness gracious, I don't understand Freud. Yeah, he has a degree, absolutely. You make him sound more base than he actually was. I suppose, you know, like Freud himself probably didn't realize how popular his writings are going to be, so. V also mentioned this, but Catholic and Orthodox priests are also professional training. Yeah, this is what I said. It's like if you're a priest or a rabbi or something like that, you usually get professional training, like you go to a university. I don't know how it's like for Jewish people. I don't know if rabbis go to a university, but I know that Catholics and Orthodox priests, they definitely do. They go to a university, they get training, they get access to the philosophy of thousands of years. And they also, like imagine this, right? The difference between a psychologist and a priest. And again, I don't care if it's a Christian priest or an imam or whatever the fuck. A psychologist has a financial incentive of you returning to his office. There's a conflict of interest there. If a psychologist ever convinces you that everything is fine, then you're not going to return, right? Because like if you don't need him, you're not going to return. So he loses money. I'm not saying all psychologists are like that. Like maybe some psychologists are happy if they get someone to never return. But usually they will say, no, this is part of a process. Like this is not about healing. You're not sick, right? Like. Meanwhile, a priest, you go to him and you're depressed. It's like, why? Because my wife doesn't want to fuck me or whatever. It's like, okay. They will give you an advice so you stop bothering them. Because the priest doesn't get financial compensation because you go to visit him. The priest gets financial compensation when you go to church, you pray, and then you put some money into the donation box, right? So it's like, it's a completely voluntary system. meaning that they're more inclined to actually give you stuff that works. Now, take into account that if you're a priest in a village, and you have like all these people coming to you, and you have like people, oh, like, sure, they may be sinful, but at the end of the day, the sin is probably stuff that may affect you as well. So like, you got a person that's like a drunk, and he's like, I don't want to be a sinner, I drink too much, I don't want God to punish me. Like, maybe you don't believe in the divine, that's fine, but the very fact that the guy is a drunk and he's got alcohol addiction and he wants to stop, like, that is something important. And the priest probably had 1,000 of those guys, and he knows what to say, he knows what works, he knows the type of personality. If it's a good priest, and I noticed this, they even speak differently based on what background you have. Like, if you're a city guy and you went to university, they will talk one way. And if you're a guy that's from a rural area and you didn't get any formal education, he's going to talk a different way. And again, like, the purpose of the priest is to get you to fuck off, to fix your problems so that you go back to church and put money in the donation box. Yeah, literally, the mission of a priest is to reduce visits to donations only. Yeah, like, that's when the priest is happy. Thank you, Midwest Finest, for the tip jar. Father Mass, how do I get the succubus receptionist to let me have a garden? Priest wants to get out of his office, not to return again, except once a week on Sunday with everyone else. Yeah. Unironically. Right, so I think like this covers the topic of unemployment in the United States. I did argue with a lot of Americans recently over the fact that Americans are rich, and they don't believe me. Now, when I say that Americans are rich, I mean compared to Europeans, right? Okay, I don't know if they're richer than Chinese folk. But despite the economic hurdle, Americans are rich. Like, if you think you're poor, you should come to Europe. And they don't believe me. And I'm starting to understand why. I'm starting to think that Americans and Romanians are very similar in mentality. A lot more similar than many would admit. And that is the fact that you guys don't like to be told good shit about your country. The left doesn't like, if you're an American and you're a Democrat, you don't want to hear good stuff about your country because it's systemically racist. And if it's a Republican, they don't want to hear good stuff about their country because it's Biden at the helm. But it's getting to the point where, unironically, if you tell Americans that things are good in their country, they don't believe you. And it's very similar to Romanians. Like, if you tell Romanians, hey, we're actually better than Portugal. No, they don't believe you. In fact, they get aggressive. Like, some actually get aggressive. They get angry. If you tell them, like, yeah, I mean, we're better than Portugal, they're like, well, what do you mean? Like, they have access to the ocean. How? I mean, do you understand their standard of civilization? Do you understand how good they are? If you tell Romanians, hey, like, it's better than Britain, I mean, you don't get arrested for shit you say on social media here. I'm like, oh, no, they probably say vile stuff. You don't understand. You don't get their laws. You don't. It's like that guy telling me I don't understand Freud. You don't read Freud enough. It's like, you don't understand British culture. You're not really listening to what they're doing. Surely they're punishing only the worst offenders. We got hate speech laws over here. God. I know that I'm better than Portugal. Like, that's the thing, because of the job that I do, and I'm looking online at things, and I'm trying to understand different cultures and different places. Like, yeah, I'm like, Romania isn't that bad. I mean, sure, there are bad things in Romania, but like, come on. Like, I was looking at the Andrew Tate trial, right? And everyone was like, oh, Andrew Tate, he doesn't get, what was it? He doesn't get charged, right? Like, they're not charging him. And I'm like, okay, let's compare it to other countries. Like, what would happen if he was in Japan? And you're looking at the law system in Japan, and it's like, holy fucking shit. And then you're looking at the U.S. law, right? Like, the U.S. law is in the fucking extremes regarding this. I mean, either you have one extreme where Anna Kasparian was shocked and bewildered on the Young Turks, and it was the thing that, oh, you got this guy, and he killed someone, chopped him up, and then people found the dismembered corpse, and they called the police. So the police gets him, and then they release him a couple of days later without bail. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, that's one extreme. That's not okay, right? Like, can we not go from one extreme to another? And then you have like the opposite extreme, where in America you can have like a person that commits a minor felony or some shit, and then he gets locked up, and the prosecutor scares him and goes like, if you sign a deal with me, you're going to go to prison for 1 year, but if you don't sign a deal, then we go to court and you can end up in prison for 25 years. It's up to you. It's like, I don't like that system either. Right? Like I'm starting to think that no justice system is perfect. But at the same time, you do need a justice system, so, well, I guess, like, you can look at different countries that have, like, things that you would prefer that your country doesn't, and vice versa. Freud is a genius. He found a way to make a living by making the answer of every trouble 2 words, your mama. Yeah. I also don't believe in this whole childhood trauma stuff, man. Like, unless you have, like, a childhood where you're actually in a war zone, or you genuinely got molested, I do not think that, oh, well, because mommy didn't let you play on the Xbox too much, now you got, like, all of this psychosis when you're an adult. I don't know how true that is. Or oh, because daddy spanked you when you're a kid, you got an ass whooping every now and then, now you got PTSD and you're traumatized. It's like, is that really the case, though? Is it? I mean, I'm not advocating for it, but, like, is it really? Really? I don't know. It's just weird, you know? Yeah, because, like, I listen to people that tell me about their childhood, and they always say, well, the reason I am this way now is because of my childhood. And I'm thinking, like, dude, my childhood was 5 times worse than yours. I should end up being like Rambo, like John Rambo from the movie, with the actual PTSD and shit. Like, like, if this is the cope and if this is the justification. And it's also like you're telling the person to justify their situation rather than try to work through it, you know? It's like, it's not your fault that you're being a cheeky little shit, it's your childhood. And it's like, I don't know. It is what it is. I mean, even the thing with the spanking, right? I'm not advocating for it, again. But I am noticing more and more cases where parents call the cops on their kids. And everyone is shocked. Everyone is surprised. It's like, oh my god, this cop or this teacher called the cops on this little boy. And I'm like, well, what the fuck do you want them to do? Like, like back in my day, under the Soviet Union, they would have the paddle. Would paddle, whap, whap, and you wouldn't commit the same thing again. But, like, okay, like, let's assume this thing, right? You got a kid, and this was in the American media, right? Like, he hospitalized his teacher. Like, the teacher took away his Nintendo Switch, and the kid hospitalized his teacher in response. Now, what is the solution for that? The solution is call the cops. He's going to end up in prison. But I doubt that this kid didn't have violent tendencies before that. I doubt that there wasn't a point in time where he did something a lot less severe and there were no consequences for it. It was like go into the corner or some shit. Like, if that kid benefited from Ma Daddy, if Ma Daddy was there, I guarantee to you that kid wouldn't have been in prison. Like, his entire life is now ruined. He's got a criminal record. Who the fuck is going to hire him? His face is on the mainstream media. Right? Like, that could have been prevented with Ma Daddy. Like, all he needed was Ma Daddy. Ma Daddy was there, and right? But no. Instead, I assume he got a firm talking to. And it's like, well, did that work? How do you even have a firm talking to if the kid genuinely hates you? Like, you got a kid that's like, go fuck yourself. And you're like, yeah, but little Billy, what you did, go fuck yourself. Like, what is that? Well, you call the cops then. Call the cops. That's the civilized thing to do. Call the cops. Or expel him from school. Yeah, I mean, that's the civilized way of handling it. Lefties hate Christian religion more than anything else because they were forced to go to church every Sunday. Lebao, it's always some small annoyance. Yeah, but like, see, I agree with the lefties. I genuinely do. And I'm a person that wants to see it both ways. But like, forcing someone to do something isn't the solution. Forcing a person to go to church every single Sunday is inhumane. And I will tell you this myself, right? Like, he already wakes up. Like kids these days, they yearn for the fucking mines. Why do you think Minecraft is the most popular game with kids? All jokes aside, though, when I was a kid, I woke up every single fucking day for school, right? So you wake up at 6 a.m. every single day in order to go to school, spend 8 hours with other people that you despise and hate, and then come home and do homework for another 4 hours. Every fucking day was a chore. I was working more in my formative years than I work now. And then, like, after you do that for 5 days, you finally get 2 days of rest. You finally get 2 days of me time where you're supposed to just relax and watch cartoons. But no, you gotta go to Sunday church. Like, fuck that shit. It's like the worst fucking thing. I understand, like, I actually empathize with the leftists. They can't empathize with me, but I can empathize with them. No, going to Sunday church, definitely a chore. Horrible. Traumatic. And it's not traumatic because it's just like the event of going to Sunday church. It's all of it put together. It's the entire picture, the entire painting. Hi V, hope all is well. What's on the menu? Well, we actually finished talking about the main subject. Rare VL, kids should learn some discipline. See, this is what I don't get, Mr. J. This is what I'm struggling to understand. Like you look at time period and you notice, okay, well, if you take a kid to Sunday church, he ends up growing resentful and turns into a social justice activist. And your solution is, like, yes, we need more of that. So you want more social justice activists. Like you generally notice the problem. Yes, like forcing the kids to obey and going to Sunday church turns them vindictive and against God. And you're like, you know what we need to do? More of that. And when I come up and I say, well, like, maybe this isn't the best solution. Like there might be a different way, a different approach. You're like, no, rare VL, more social justice activists. I don't fucking get it. I generally don't. Again, maybe it seems counterintuitive. Like maybe the idea that if you don't force kids to go to church, they will end up being woke and atheistic. But the results show, like, if you do force them to go to church, they end up becoming woke and atheistic. Maybe you should stop forcing them. Maybe you should make them want to go to church. Did you think about that? Maybe you should make the kid actually ask you to take him to church. Fucking hell. Do you know how I would do that? And I would do it with my kid. Like, there's a lot of churches in Romania, right? Very beautiful old churches. You show the kid the church, you show him the mysticism, you have like this PowerPoint presentation, and you talk to him about, look, this church is 1,000 years old, and look at how good the painter was, and the architecture, and blah, blah, blah. And the kid actually wants to go there then, and you're like, okay, well, we're going to have a field trip, and we're going to spend the next day, driving with the car all the way up into the mountains so we can see that monastery. And then the kid is going to fucking love going to the fucking church. Jesus! Forcing them to go to Sunday church. And then wondering, why isn't it working? Are mandatory piano lessons also abuse? I think you should find out what your kid likes to do. Like some kids, they may like piano. Other kids may like to paint. Other kids may like to fight. If they like to fight, send them to sword fighting. Like sword fighting is a respectable sport. I think they have the junior league, right? And you send your kid in order to learn how to what is it called? The Olympics. In Romanian it's called Scrima, but I don't know like what it's called in the United States. Like, you don't have to send them to sport fighting necessarily, but like send them to do a contact sport. Send them to learn boxing or some shit. If he likes to fight. If he doesn't like to fight, and if he likes music, find out what is his the instrument that he likes the most. Like actually get your kid to listen to many different types of bands and orchestras and be like, what instrument do you like? And he's like, well, I like the violin. Okay. Do you want to learn the violin? Like try to get the kid to actually want to do that. Don't just be like, all right, well, you're my kid. You're going to learn the piano. And now you're going to sing for me. Sing! Sing, Ariel! Sing! It's like, would you like that to be done to you? I don't know. Churches to learn moral values and culture. I learned more moral values and culture from Naruto than I ever learned from church. Again, if you go to church without wanting to be there, you're going to learn jack shit. You need to actually have a desire to be there, right? It's the same thing like when you're an adult and you're being taken into the fat HR lady's office and she lectures you about woke shit. You don't want to be there. You don't care about what she says. You don't respect her. Are you actually learning something? Is it actually benefactory that you're having that engagement? In the US, parents who use corporal punishment can be arrested and sent to jail. Many such cases. My wife and I were under the threat for a while. I think they're bringing this in Europe as well. Yeah. Now I want to differentiate between what was it like giving your kid a whooping, you know, like in the Soviet Union, applying a correction like a spanking, versus like actual child abuse where the kid needs hospital treatment. Like those are two different things. But usually the activists, they try to mix and match, right? So like they're trying to suggest that all type of violence is done by parents who they don't really care about the kids' education, but they want to blow off steam, which obviously is disgusting in any culture. But this idea of spanking your kid is illegal is coming to Europe as well. And again, the only solution is call the cops. Like if the kid does something that requires spanking, like let's say he stole something. Like stealing something would definitely be an alarm sign because, okay, well, he stole something now and he's a kid. I mean, that's funny, that's hilarious, you know, you take the toy and you give it back to Billy. But the reality is that if he keeps doing it, he's going to end up in prison. You don't want your kid in prison, right? You love him. Now, you talk with him the first time, right? And you're like, well, little Billy, what have you done? This is unacceptable. Go and apologize. But if he does it again, and you talk with him again, and then he does it again, like, what is the solution? The solution is call the cops. There's no other solution at that point, right? Call the cops. Scare him straight. This is another thing that psychologists don't like. Scaring them straight. American Outlier, $20. Also, V, speak for yourself. Some have had not only school, but had to work on the farm on the weekends and go to church. If you grew up in our house with this attitude, my grandparents have your ass would be read every weekend. Well, no, the thing that happens is that most kids, they internalize it, right? So they're not going to tell the grandparent, oh, like, I don't like God. No, they just internalize it. And then when they finally get to break loose, when they finally have their own house, when they're finally living alone, then they're going to become a cheeky little shit that's a social justice activist and goes around and tries to promote atheism everywhere. Why is D&D in 2.5 hours? I don't fucking know. Let me check. When I started streaming, it was supposed to be now, but I guess they canceled it. Sorry, not canceled it. They postponed it. No, they're saying normal time. I don't know. It should be when I finish the stream, but if it's later, it's later. Most Christian parents do try to get their children to enjoy church. Sometimes parents make kids do things the kid don't like but are beneficial. No, I agree, but like forcing them to go to church isn't the solution. Again, my idea would be telling them that you know, taking them to this church that's far away, so you're having like a camping trip as well. And you tell them about the history of the church and how old it is, and you talk about how beautiful the paintings are. I mean, this works a lot with an Orthodox church. But anyway, so now the kid is excited. He's looking forward to go to it, right? Another one would be every time you go to church, you reward him with something, right? So like he goes to church and you buy him ice cream afterwards or stuff like that. Should not be forced. Like the idea of compelling or forcing. I mean, for the love of God, you're an adult, right? And you're dealing with a kid. Like, surely you know how to manipulate someone. Like, if you can't manipulate your own kid into liking church, what are you doing? What are you doing with your life? You can't even manipulate someone. Come on. You need to start using your brain a little bit. Forcing is easy. Anyone can force anyone to do something. But you know what they say. You can force to get a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. The reason why church is failing now more than in previous generations is because parents now don't talk about the values the kids have to learn afterwards to create a bond based on their belief. I think there's many reasons why church is falling. I don't know if it's necessarily because parents do not talk about these things, because like most social justice activists, they know the Bible more than their parents. I think like most of the stuff, culturally speaking, is also done by people spending money to accomplish something, right? So like the atheist movement had a lot of backing. It had a lot of cash poured into it. Uh, is the church doing the same thing in order to propagate Christianity? Well, I don't know. I mean, look at the Pope. Do you think the current Pope is doing enough? Do you think the current Pope, who every single day says some more woke shit and gets the hammer and sickle as a prize from I think it was like a Bolivian leader, and he's happy about? Do you think he's doing enough in order to promote Christianity? Probably not. So therefore, um, the great Dawkins always said we should not trust those who do not use reason. Yeah, like this is actually a really important thing, right? Like if you have a kid, at least this is what I benefited from when I was younger, was to have a reason for everything, right? So like if something seemed unreasonable, I would reject it and I would despise it. Like for instance, going to school, I understood like the reason is so that I can get a job later on. But like going to church, what is the reason for that? Like if God is everywhere, why do I have to be in church? If I went to church last year and I completed my course and I already listened to everything the priest has to say, why do I have to go this year again? It's like those things that didn't make sense to me at the time. That was what was going in my head. And then was like, if God says that he wants you to love him, why am I being forced? He's like, why are my parents forcing me and not allowing me to have my personal relationship with God? And it was like that type of thing. But again, like all kids are different. Not everyone thinks like me. I still believe that forcing someone to do something isn't the right way if you can make them actually enjoy doing the thing, right? So like for instance, if my parents would have said, "See, we're going to church for the communion aspect, like the community aspect, like it's important to maintain friendships with the people that you know in your life, and these people are going to help you get a job someday, and it's important to have like good and positive relationships with the community," then that would have made me feel different about church. It would have felt a lot different than it's like, oh no, you need to be there because, well, this is what everyone does, and right. So like the way you justify it is very important. um I hated school, but I liked church as a kid. Yeah, everyone is different. Like some people may have liked it, but I guarantee to you, most of the social justice activists, one of the reasons they hate it is because their parents forced them. Kids go to church with their parents and play around the church with other kids. My God. What month is it today? It's May. In July, I'm going to have my own kid. I'm actually quite nervous. I know that for like the first 2 years, you don't get to do much as a father. Like you can't give him titty, despite the fact that social justice activists would disagree with you. Um, but like you do worry a lot. It's like, okay, well, when do I allow him to use a computer? When do I allow him to use television? How many hours? That type of thing. Personally, I think like the way I grew up is perfect. So this is how I'm going to grow up my kid. Like no computer until he's at least 12 years old. And then no phone until he's 14. And then no internet access until he is 16. And that's going to be with supervision. At 18, he can do whatever the fuck he wants. But I'm still worried because, like, let's say you say, all right, well, no phone until he is 14. Great, right? That's fine. But he goes to school, and everyone else has a phone. And everyone starts mocking and laughing at him. And then I'm thinking, like, well, when I was in school, and if everyone had something and I didn't, it made me feel left out. It made me feel like my parents don't love me. And it's like, well, how do you compensate for that? Oh my God, the baby clothing. Oh, just every single relative in the family, every single person has given me baby clothing. And I'm like, you guys do understand that this thing is going to grow, right? I use thing in order to upset them. It's going to grow a lot. Like in a couple of months, all the clothing that you gave me, I'm going to have to throw away. So, are you sure it's a good way? Like, at least buy me. Here's the thing. If you ever have someone in your family that has a kid, buy them diapers. Buy them fucking diapers, because they're going to use the diapers. But the clothing, like the baby clothing, it's going to be there for a couple of months, and then it's going to remain small. And everyone else gets them baby clothes. Every fucking person gets them baby clothing. Let's bring back child labor. See, you're joking. But there is this internet meme, like the kids yearn for the mines. And I'm like, which is the most popular game with kids? Minecraft. Oh. Oh. Baby clothing should be 100% hand-me-down. The thing is, like, baby clothing is so cheap. At least in Romania. Like, I don't know the prices in the United States. But baby clothing is like going out to a restaurant and having a meal. That's the equivalent. It's not as expensive as it used to be. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe if you're buying brand baby clothing, I don't know why you'd want to do that. You're getting Nike or Nike. What is it called? Nike, right? You're getting Nike baby clothing. Then maybe. If any of my siblings get kids, I'll pay for their first session of a psychologist. See, for the parents, yeah? I mean, that may be a better investment. At least you won't have to buy any clothes for him, lol. No, the diapers, like, trust me. If you want to... I'm not saying that you shouldn't offer something nice to a person that's expecting a kid. But what I am saying is that you'd be more helpful if you give them diapers. Diapers are essential. And they go really fast. Like, I looked it up. Apparently, a newborn, under the first 6 months, they shit once every 2 hours. So you gotta constantly change the diapers. Homeschool and turn your kid into Nepo baby. I don't think, like, homeschooling is necessarily important in Romania. Like, schools in Romania aren't as toxic as the ones in the US. And I do think, like, having your kid in a community and actually interacting with other kids is important. Unless you want an autistic child. So, I'm probably not going to homeschool. No. Unless, like, when by the time he reaches the period to go to homeschool. And I haven't looked at the legislation in Romania, because maybe I'm not even allowed. But, it depends, right? Like, if he starts coming with, like, leftist dogma in his head after he goes to school, then yeah, I would consider it. If he gets, like, a drag queen in order to read his story hour, I'll be like, oh, shit. Okay. Naruhodo. Diapers are not bad. It's the sheer amount of formula you go through. No, I think my wife is going to breastfeed. Like, my wife has amazing tits. I told her, it's like, look, if you have these amazing tits and milk doesn't flow out of it, like, what is wrong with you? Like, there is no fucking way I will believe. I will think you're scamming. I will think that you're drinking the milk yourself or something. Like, there is no way you can have boobs like that and not be able to breastfeed. Like, no. There is absolutely no way that my wife is going to use formula. Unless, of course, like, something actually happens, and then I'll be like, what the fuck? Dad, please don't force me to go to public school. It's bad. I won't force you to go to Sunday school, but I will go to... I'll be like, no, it's the government that forces you. I'm not showing you shit. Take my word for it. Use your imagination. Open Steam, Epic, and other accounts when they are born and collect the free or the nearly free stuff every week for them. See how many are canceled when they hit 16? Why would games be canceled? But like that's actually an interesting thing, right? Like, you open an Epic Store account and you take all the free games, and when your kid is 16, you're like, this is your games library now. Shit, I just realized, like, what if my kid will want my Steam library? Like, he covets the library, and I'll have to share my account with him, and I'll be like, well, I want to play now. And you're like, no, Dad, I'm playing. I'm going to put titty milk in my coffee. Dude, I don't work for Blizzard. But if I did, I probably would. I thought the same until my son was born. Wife couldn't keep up with his appetite. Yeah, but like, you diversify the food then. Like, you start feeding him actual stuff. You give him like fruit purees, and you give him other stuff. You don't need to give him formula. Like, look, again, as I said, the way I grew up is perfect. I had no formula when I grew up. He doesn't need any formula either. I'm going to get... well, actually, hold on. No. There are like these things I saw. It's like cat food, but for babies. You got like this little box, then you open it, and then the baby eats what's inside. And that's convenient as fuck. You'll probably have those. You get them from the pharmacy, I saw. Like for baby formula. I think that's what formula is it? Well, I don't know. Still, it's something that I would consider. Bro, never do formula. Always breastfeed if possible. Yeah. No, like, unironically, I learned it in med school. When the kid is born, he doesn't have his own antibodies. So he gets antibodies from his mother's milk. So it's actually important. But, God, like, I noticed that everything in our culture is to try and hurt the baby. Like even the baptism shit. Like, here's the thing. When I was growing cats, I had like a cattery, and I was raising kittens. I didn't allow anyone into the room with the kittens so that the kittens don't get contaminated. Because they get sick really easily. Like, you go outside, you pet a stray cat, and then you go into the room with the kittens. They get sick, and they die. It's not cool, right? And I was thinking, like, well, if you do that with kittens, and no one complains, like, everyone was like, wow, you're such an excellent breeder. You're doing a really fantastic job. Like, not... Because I was talking with other breeders, and their kittens had a much higher fatality rate than mine. And I was like, oh, everyone was like, wow, you're doing such a good job. Like, well, you mean like you haven't lost kittens? No. But if I want to do the same with the baby, and I'm like, well, for the first 6 months of his life, I don't want anyone besides his mother and myself to come into contact with him. Like, if it's possible, right? Don't take him outside. Don't allow any strangers or even family members to go like kissy and all that. Oh my God, you're horrible parent, dreadful. Say that it's just 6 months. What the fuck? Must you you can't control yourself? Are you a child? But it is what it is, it's and the thing is, like, I actually seen kids get meningitis because a family member had what is it? The herpes virus, right? Herpes virus is actually very common among the population. I think like more than 70% of people have it, but they usually have it in an inactive state. But you get like, is that sore you get on your lips, that little awful stuff that grows on your lip. It stings and then it goes away, right? Like, most people have it every now and then. And you had like a case where the grandma had it and she kissed the baby. Baby got meningitis and now baby is mentally deficient. Baby is like for the rest of their life. And it's like, was it worth it? No, of course not. So like, if I look at that and I'm like, yeah, it's unlikely that it would happen. It's very unlikely. Debosh, Kushi, like, why put the risk? Like, can't grandma control herself for 6 months? And the answer is no. No, she can't. She can't. She must. She must touch it. She must touch it, she must poke it, she must kiss it. It's like, okay. At least wash your hands, man. It's the baby that's the bacteria cauldron. Well, yeah, but like, why would you add more? But V, sorry, how does it affect you personally? That's a great question. My cat's over 10 years old, only lost one kitten. Yeah, I lost one kitten as well. It had, what was it called? Kitten fading syndrome. Yeah, I think it had an intestinal occlusion or something. Like, it just wouldn't push it out. So it got its abdomen hard, passed away. Nothing I could have done. But still, compared to other breeders, I had a lot of successful kittens. Are you gonna read Dune to your kid? No, but I'll read it to other stories. I don't think he would understand. Like, Fear is the mind killer. Like, what the fuck? I don't know if the child is competent enough to understand the philosophy of Dune. Would you rather have an enlightened Democrat or a bear run your government? I actually had this conversation with Short Fat Otaku, and what I came up with, and it really pissed him off, massively disappointed him, is that when I was born, if you look at the United States, right, like in 1986, all the laws were in place and everything was good. Like, everything up till that point is necessary and good. Everything added after is shit, right? So every single time the government adds a new law, yes, even traffic regulations, it's either to make my life more difficult, tax me more, lower my standard of living. As such, a bear running the government means that the government doesn't do anything, and the bear is the perfect man for the job. This is why I vote for clown politicians. Like, when you see a politician that's dumb and stupid, I want that guy. Unironically, clownish problems require clownish solutions. I want the guy that doesn't know that 2 plus 2 equals 4. If he says it's 5, that's the guy I want for office. I want absolute moronic cretins to run the government, so that they can't do any more harm. Because if they do harm and they pass a legislation that's stupid, well, you can get it to the Supreme Court and have it repealed. But if you have someone that's smart and actually wants to fuck you up, which is what most politicians want to do, then you can't get the legislation repealed. Unfortunate for me, my children won't meet any of their great or grandparents because they are no longer here, with the exception of grandma, maybe. Yeah, it's the same thing with me. All my family passed away. Only my dad is still alive. And one of my aunts and my cousin. Yeah, I have like 3 family members that I know of that are left. So I'm going to try to convince my wife to have another one. Saint Peter was a rabbit. But V, those people are communists because they don't know math. Oof. You know, if it's a stupid communist, it's still better. It is sad, but like, all of you are going to experience it. I mean, this is good to experience, right? Like, you don't want the opposite. You don't want to see your kids dying, right? Like, the kids, unfortunately, should experience their... Because we all die, right? So, like, it's natural to see your parents fading away and your grandparents fading away. That is, but unfortunately, it's also the desirable thing, because you don't want to see your kids fading away. Like, no parent should see their kids die. But the more you live, the more, you know, like, the people that came before you are going to pass away. It's just the natural circle of life. Is the normality of it. Anyway, I need to get ready for D&D. So, I'll see you guys on the Archcast soon. Thank you for watching, and take care.